The Apple Watch Series 6 is 3 years old now. How is it handling up? And is it worth a buy? Let's get into it. I had the Apple Watch Series 6 when it first came out. I bought it all those years ago and I really enjoyed it. It was a really good watch and I really thought it was fast, responsive, and the bezels were nice and thin and it was perfect. Now, this watch has held up ridiculously well. I have taken it out in the skate park underwater. I've fallen off at the skate park with it and it's smacked the floor, hasn't smashed, and it just has held up really well, and I'm really happy with the way it is. And because the S6 chip was relatively far ahead compared to all the other chips that have come before it, it had that extra power, that enough headroom to the point where it could afford to get those software updates in the future. I have since swapped the Apple Watch Series 8 and my mum now has the Series 6. She uses this every single day and the battery life has held up really well. Software is really good on the Series 6 and it's also still relatively responsive. It's not slow and it still keeps up, and I'm really happy that it has because I really liked this watch. Now, you may be asking why, because the Series 5 came before it, that wasn't that different from the Series 4, but the Series 6 came with a lot. It came with that extra chip, it came with that nice blue colour, and it honestly was just really nice because I previously came from a Series 3, so I definitely noticed those changes. Now, this is what the Apple Watches are intended for, is for you to upgrade every couple years. Not every year you notice the bigger changes where you upgrade mainly every 3 years. I have had every single watch in terms of the Series 1, 3, 6 and the 8, and I've always really enjoyed getting these watches and seeing what has changed, because you notice stuff more when you jump from watch to watch. Now, not so much going from the Series 6 to the Series 8, I really didn't notice much other than the thinner bezels, and that says it all for me. The Series 6 set the baseline for performance and what a watch should be. It showed that Apple can make a chip that's powerful enough to be supported for many years, to have a decent battery life, and I definitely do think that's a good thing. It was the second generation to bring the always-on display, so I mean, it came with a better always-on display that wasn't as energy-sucking and was so much more energy efficient. Now, I would definitely say that the Series 6 is in that sweet spot at the moment where you're going to get the software support and you're also going to get the speed. So when you're thinking of buying a Series 6, and if you are wanting to buy one, you've got to take it into a couple options. So what generation of Apple Watch are you on right now, if at all, and whether or not it's a worthy upgrade. So for example, if you're on the Series 3, which a lot of people are because they really enjoyed that watch, because that was also far ahead for its time. The Series 3, you're going to notice if you go from any watch above, even the Series 4. Obviously, don't go for the Series 4, that's not supported anymore. I'm not saying that, recommending that at all. But what I am saying is that if you're going from a Series 3, you're going to notice more of the upgrades if you go to a Series 6. Now, I would have to say to you, do you want the always-on display? Do you need that? And is that a main priority for you? Because if so, yeah, get the Series 6, it's cheaper and it's going to be a really good option. Or you go for a brand new Apple Watch SE, because that has got all the new chip, it's got, you know, the design that the Series 6 had, and it's a bit newer, you're going to get software support for longer. So do you need that? Do you need that always on display? Because that's the only difference, and the blood oxygen sensor. The blood oxygen sensor for me has been very hit and miss and doesn't really, you know, do much. Like, why do you need to be checking your blood oxygen? If you're serious about checking your blood oxygen, you have a separate machine for that. You don't need your Apple Watch to tell you what your blood oxygen is, and it's in such a weird place for this to be to get your blood oxygen that it's really not worth it. But the SE is definitely going to be the option for people that are going from a Series 3 that don't really care about the always on display, because it's new and it has the same design language. But if you want to, if you found a really good deal on a Series 6 and you're thinking, well, no, Harry, I don't want to get an SE, I've already decided against it. Why should I pick an SE over a Series 6? Or why should I pick the Series 6 over the SE? Now, if you decided that you want to pick the Series 6 over the SE, okay, I understand what type of person you are. You found a decent deal on a Series 6. You're deciding whether or not to click buy on this deal. Now, I definitely say, look, make sure that you're getting one that's got a decent battery life. Make sure it's not iCloud locked, obviously, and make sure that it's got no visible signs of damage, water damage, because Apple Watches are used a lot. They're on people's wrists all the time. Make sure it's clean. Make sure there's nothing dodgy going on. Make sure you've got a full history of where this watch has been, what it's done. Make sure that they are as transparent with you as possible, because the Series 6 is a really good watch, and it's just making sure that you find a good deal. Now, I honestly wouldn't say don't get it. Like, I really would say it's such a good watch that it's really worth it for a lot of people, because it's obviously where it's at that cheaper point. It's that example of, do I get a previous flagship or do I get this generation SE? This is where the struggle is for me, because I struggle to say to people, yeah, go out, spend your money on getting an SE if it's, you know, they found a cheaper deal on a Series 6 or they're getting given a Series 6. The Series 6 for me is honestly really solid, and I really would recommend it because you get those features that are so small but noticeable. You get the fast charging, you get the always on display, the second generation version of it, and you also get the faster chip. Compared to the SE, you do not get the always on display, you don't get the fastest chip, and you also don't get the blood oxygen sensor, if that means anything to you. You also do not get this long battery life. Now, obviously, your battery life is going to depend based on how much the person's used it, all the battery cycles, because obviously, if you're buying a second-hand device, the battery might not be the best. But if you can shop refurbished for a Series 6, definitely go ahead and do that, because it's definitely worth it. I'd say my final thoughts on this watch would definitely be, it's a really solid watch that's held up over time and has honestly, you know, stayed good from the start. Not really much has changed. It's fast, responsive, can still go through a whole day of battery life without any worries. The screen is durable. The look of it's nice, of the colours and everything. But if you can get a refurbished version, definitely try and do that, because you don't have to worry about the battery life then. So definitely go ahead and buy the Series 6 if you can. And if you really want that newer version of the watch, definitely go for the SE, because I definitely do think that you're going to notice those changes. If you're coming from an older Apple Watch, you're going to notice those changes regardless. So if you've got Series 3, definitely jump straight to the Series 6, because I definitely do think that that's going to be a really good option for you, and you're really going to enjoy this watch. Because honestly, the Series 6 was such a good watch at the time and was so ahead of its time that you really are not going to notice that you've got a slightly older Apple Watch. But it's been Harry. I'm out. Peace.